Welcome to the Smart Nonsense Podcast, where we make nerdy stuff cool about entrepreneurship, self-development, challenging norms. I don't know. We still got to figure it out.
I don't know yet.
Hey, what we did figure out, we figured out how to, do video on Spotify, which is cool. If you don't watch on Spotify, a lot of Apple Podcast people, I don't know what you're doing over there. Switch over to Spotify. You get our pretty faces, and I'm shirtless.
You really like video on Spotify. What's up with that?
I don't. It's just easy to. I actually watch all my podcasts on YouTube, but I have YouTube Premium, so I can go turn the screen off and still listen. But that's not the important part. The important part is we're gonna release this podcast in an hour because we're all caught up.
Wow.
And that's sexy.
Oh, wow, Pop! Kudos to you. Actually, well, I don't know if it's kudos. What you did is released 10 Smart Nonsense episodes yesterday or something.
You know what? I just said we're going to release this in an hour, and I can't even have a conversation with you because you're lagging. So that might have been a false start.
How about that? Oh!
We just got to put up with it? That's
How hard is the lag?
That's how it goes, huh? I guess it's getting better. I can't really see you, but I don't need to talk to you. We'll be in person in 5 days, so... we have that to look up to. Hey, tell me about your life. You got tea? Hey, we got a nice podcast today. I don't want you leaving. Don't go squirreling away. We got you in the bear trap.
I was in a bear trap this morning. I was in Yellowstone National Park, 5:30 a.m. It was snowing up there. You get to 8,000 feet. We were at the Continental Divide. Water's going to the Atlantic. Water's going to the Pacific in a snowstorm. So that was kind of shocking to see snow in June. Now we're in Wyoming with average Wi-Fi, apparently.
Why'd you do that at like 10 in the morning? Or, 11 if it's mountain time.
Mountain time, baby. We wanted to get out there so that we could get to Wyoming for work. So we had 3 hours. That's the thing with van life. We do like a nice sampler, but we always got to be somewhere. So it's a rush sampler. We got to come back and like dive in, like 2 weeks in Yellowstone. I saw Old Faithful, dude.
Right,
that thing erupted.
That
was
check
pretty
into my
fucking
apartment.
Cool. Yeah, we're rushing to get you.
You know, my dad was complaining about listening to this podcast because we talk over each other, and I'm like, you know why, Slick? Because there's a lag. I'm like, it's really, really hard to have a podcast when there's lag. But hey, we don't complain. Do I complain? I complain this whole podcast. I'm not going to complain, though. All right, so that's kind of cool. I also there's my transition. I tweeted something yesterday because I saw it, and this guy's like, everyone's like, vacations are cool, but you know what's cool? Living at home. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool too. I like that.
I was thinking about that.
But no,
this
we
morning.
went on vacation, Belky.
Oh yes, sir. Let me add one little one. Thiener had an important. My girlfriend had an important blog. They were launching some copy. They're launching a new thing, a new product, and that was going live at 10 a.m. And from she needed to be online at 9 a.m. And of course, we had no Wi-Fi. We were stuck in Yellowstone blizzard, so she got online at 9:40 a.m. And I was just thinking, travel's fun. So is being at home. It's really nice.
Being at home is nice. Unless you're going to a 5-star hotel resort in Mexico. The last podcast, if you're not following wrong, oh no. That wasn't Asian racist. That was just my stutter with 2 words that
Nope, I'm pulling
Asian
it.
Racist.
No context. A wrong.
If you've been following along, yesterday we talked about our super secret Saks 50th birthday party, which Henry got invited to. I was the +1. Lovely time. We disclosed as much as we probably could. If you didn't hear the queso story, go listen. You can hear about the Bermuda Triangle as well. We basically, it's the introverted, shy version of networking, and it worked pretty well. But we left the cliffhanger where we had a 3-hour conversation with David Sachs of PayPal, Yammer, and I don't know, a lot of stuff he's funded, plus his wife,
Craft Ventures.
and Henry and me. Yeah, I guess we could go through the craft. So us four, we have this 3-hour lovely experience together, and some crazy takeaways that, at least for me, kind of rocked my whole like, oh, what are we doing with the business? What are we doing with life? And maybe that wasn't the case for you, Belky, but there's just like one or two things that stuck out. So I guess we got to talk about them.
It wasn't. Let's talk about them. The reason that it doesn't rock my whole world is like it's just like advice in general. Like David offered us some business advice, but he doesn't run our business, so he has no idea what's going on internally. So I like to like take bits and pieces of things people say and advise, but it doesn't make me do a full 180 as much.
So there's the pros and cons, right? He doesn't know the business, but you kind of need that blind person coming in and being like, hey, I get what you guys are trying to do, but that's probably not going to work out because of this analogy. I'm like, oh, right, that company does things differently, and we look at it differently. So you kind of like, it's good to have someone that's familiar with the business, and also good to have someone completely unfamiliar. It's like kind of two different ways of coming at it. But Belky, let's go chronologically, probably through that little night out on the town, and then I want to tell you about my takeaway.
Aw. And then Wim Hof? Are we telling the people how I got
Oh, I forgot about Wim, dude. Oh, yeah,
That's the podcast I'm
that
here
was
for.
chronologically. We gotta
communicate.
I forgot. Okay, I totally forgot about
We got to
that.
communicate.
No, dude. You
Yeah,
go off
let's
the grid
tease
and I
him.
don't talk to you anymore.
Let's tease him. Let's tease him for the David Sachs dinner. And
Yeah. Give him Wim.
well, hey, transitions are hard when you don't have a transition.
Well, how this whole event work, right? It's Sax's 50th party, and it's 3 days, right? So you have to have people doing things throughout the 3 days, because that's why you're all there. So there are a bunch of activities peppered throughout each of the days. One of these activities that spoke to us is this Wim Hof breathing and ice bath.
No, Wim Hof. Well,
that sounds.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Give the
Wim
proper
Hof
title.
ice bath. I just thought it was the ice bath. And I was like, I can do an ice bath.
Okay. That's
Turns out- okay.
withheld information that might have informed what you did.
That's withheld information. So we show up and it's 80% Wim Hof breathing technique. And now if you've watched your fair deal of Wim Hof videos, and there's a book called Breathe by like Ed Nestor or something, really great book. You know that Wim Hof breathing is kind of intense. So we show up, there's like this shaman. What was her name? Mariela?
Marcela? I think she was Marcela.
Beside the point, she was amazing. And she was calm.
No,
and she
was Mariana. Marcela was the second one.
There's a lag. Sorry, Slick.
No, that was actually my brain. That wasn't the lag. That was my brain.
Okay, so let me cut to this chase. There's 6 of us sitting in a circle, and she starts explaining how we're going to do this Wim Hof thing, and you're going to feel this energy in your body and this heat in the furnace of your body at your core. And I've seen a lot of Wim Hof breathing, and she says, now for this exercise, you can either sit up or lay down. And I'm like, red flag. First of all, red flag. If you've seen Wim Hof breathing, sitting up, is not a good idea. Wim Hof breathing is basically hyperventilating for 10 minutes. So, I'm on the lag. Okay, so I'm going to carry on. I'm going to bulldoze on.
I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm with you. Snowplow.
Go.
No, dude, I'm
Take your
clearing
turn.
the road for you, so
I'm the snowplow.
You can go.
Thanks.
No, I didn't want to go.
I'm the snowplow. Okay, so we all start laying down, and what does she instruct? She instructs you to breathe a huge inhale through your nose and out through your mouth 30 times in a row. I'm not gonna do that here. It's not gonna come through on audio. Breathe in and out 30 times in a row. 30 times is a lot. And then after you've done 30, there he is. After you've done 30, you're going to inhale as hard as you can and hold for a minute, an entire minute. And then after that minute, you're going to inhale again to your head and hold that for 15 seconds. Okay? And we all do that in a circle. We do round 1. And it's fine.
Wait. Did you say breathe out? So before the minute, God, dude, I'm going to lose my mind.
No, I'm here.
I can't have a conversation with a frozen frame and half the audio. It's really tough. But isn't it like breathe in really heavily and then breathe out till you're at 10% of the oxygen left in your lungs and hold that for a minute?
Whatever it is, Pop, yeah. But whatever it is, it's not natural. Nobody should be breathing like this ever.
That's the point.
So yeah, it is something crazy like that. And so we finished round 1.
Okay.
And then she goes on to say, now get ready for round 2. I'm like, oh, back to back, huh? We're going to back to back the hyperventilating. Okay. So we do it again, and I get even tinglier, and it's weird. And we do it a third time, and now I'm in like fucking Mars. Okay. I've left the building. Everybody else in the group, all you guys sit up, and you proceed to talk and get ready to go over to the ice baths. And I can't sit up, Pop. I can't sit up. Did you see me? Did you think anything?
Here's the thing. Okay, we all sit up. And she kind of prefaced it with like, hey, take your time to sit up, right? There's no rush to sit up. I sit up because I'm like, hey, I was on the ground for like 5 minutes. It's time to sit up. Everyone else proceeds. Belky stays on the ground. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Because sometimes like at the All-In Summit, Belky will get a little overwhelmed. And he's like, hey, I got to sit and do some extra breathing. So I'm like, oh, Belky's just doing his extra breathing. But give him 10 seconds and he'll sit up. But 10 seconds arrives, and I'm like, this dude ain't sitting up. And so the whole little shaman circle starts to be like, hey, why is that kid not sitting up? And now Mariana's like, hey, I'm not really qualified or certified in any sense to do this, but I'm going to go over because that's abnormal. And so now the whole room's kind of worried, and Belky apparently is in not the same state as everyone else.
No, dude, I locked up. So she comes over. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm locked." And my hands are convulsing. I've developed cerebral palsy. My eyelids are fluttering. I'm having a seizure, and I can't feel my legs either. How about that? I've got cerebral palsy.
Meanwhile,
amputated legs.
From the outside perspective. I wasn't looking really closely because everyone knew I came with this person, and we're both like the young, relatively in shape people. We got the muff, which is like the little muffin top rolling over, but no one can see that when you're lying down. So we look in shape. And so it's weird. It's like, hey, why is your buddy who's supposedly in shape on the ground like a dead body? I wasn't at the time paying enough attention to see he was locked up because I didn't want to acknowledge the situation and give it too much credibility. So I just kept on my mission, and I'm thinking about the ice bath. Ice bath. I gotta. Fuck, dude. God, if I got a cleft palate lisp or whatever.
Okay, well, and you know,
yeah, I'm ignoring it. But Belky's locked up for. No, dude, you take the wheel.
Well, can I give him the kicker? What we found out later. Oh, well, okay. So I get locked up. The shaman comes over, who I'm like, oh, I've seen this happen before. I've seen Wim Hof give people some pressure points and like release their cerebral palsy. She's gonna come over and help me. So she walks over and she's like, oh, we need help. Calls a medic. She calls a medic. I'm like, oh no, this isn't gonna end well. I'm locked in my body. Well, and she doesn't know how to do Wim Hof.
Here's my perspective. Right. No idea how to do Wim Hof. That's totally fine. She's hot, so serves the part. they don't expect this. This is the Black Swan event where someone gets locked in their own body and gets cerebral palsy. But I'm seeing it. So, like, okay, I didn't mention the hot factor before, but it is a major factor in how I'm interpreting the situation. Because now I just went through like an average ass breathing exercise. And I'm like, that was normal. I held my breath for a while. I got a little nervous, but I'm like, okay, I could breathe after a minute. Now, Belky's just lying on the ground and suddenly has two hot girls swarming him and giving him all this attention. And I'm like, I swear to God, Belky, if you're milking this Wim Hof breathing just to get some hotties to touch your chest and give you some electrolyte, I'm not having it for a second. So after a bit of time and the medic's kind of on the way, they come over and we're just like, hey, I know he's got problems and he's probably locked up because now we start to see his toes seizing and we're like, oh, that's like a chimpanzee when it's grabbing a branch. That's not a human being. We're like, that's fine. We're going to go over to the ice bath. And so we all go in and like take our turns and only 2 ice baths and there are 5 of us. So I'm like, I'll go last. I'll wait for Belky when he's unlocked. But he just stays locked and everyone goes through the sequence of like 5 minutes in the bath and they all do their little pushes. I finally get in the bath and he's still locked. And so finally, like 20 minutes later, I get out and this dude with all the hot girls around him, he's just drinking and he's like, I don't know. I guess I just got unlocked. You fucking bullshitter.
Dude, just the idea of waiting for me to get unlocked is so funny.
Right. Well, keep in mind, though, I'm saying unlocked like I knew he was locked in his body and couldn't get out. I had no idea. I again, thought he was just liking the attention and was, like, hyperventilating. And so he had one of those panic attacks.
Here's how I'll describe it. It wasn't a panic attack. Apparently, I just did the breathing right, and we'll get to that in just a second here. If you are ever asleep and you like sleep on your arms and you wake up and your arms are so dead because there's no blood in them and you're confused and you can't find your arms, that's what this was like. It was absolutely no feeling in my arms or legs. Couldn't move them if I tried.
Full body, dude.
Full body. It actually happened to me last night.
You just slept
I woke up.
all your limbs.
I started freaking out because it reminded me of being locked up, and then my arms came too. Oh, my God.
The funny part was like we all went through the ice bath. We did like extra time because we're all dope. And we're all just shitting on Belky because it's like this guy couldn't even handle like a couple minutes of breathing exercises. Meanwhile, Belky comes back and he's like, dude, I was locked. And I'm like, what do you mean? What is locked? He's like, did you see my fucking body? It was just curled up like that because it just seized. And so we're kind of shooting the shit, giggling. We get back to the apartment and he shows me the Wim Hof of Yes Theory. And it's Matt, one of the main guys on Yes Theory. He gets actually like convulsions, like he's possessed. I'm like, and that was with Wim. And you see, you're right, making noises. And Belky wasn't making noises like that, or I probably would have been actually concerned. But then Wim comes and gives him a pressure point, and he's like, and then it's just all back to normal. But we had 2 hot girls and a fake medic trying to resuscitate this man that's locked, and it just didn't work. So what we realized long after is like, oh, I didn't do the breathing exercise right. Then we go and ask this other guy, Troy. We're like, Troy, did you do it this way? And he's like, no, dude, I gave up after the first time. That shit was hard as fuck. And we go through like everyone in the group and no one did
Charles,
it right.
You?
And then one of the members.
No, fuck that.
Charles. No, dude. What's her name? Troy's wife?
Angelique.
Jacqueline?
She's like, no, I was
Angelique.
focused on the ice bath.
Oh, easy. Right. So everyone's like that. And then this one medic dude,
Ben.
Almost remember his name. Ben. Hey, dude, on top of it. Ben, he comes over and he's like, oh, yeah, I'm actually a medic. I've done this before in rivers. I've done like these breathing exercises. Like, that's normal. That means you're doing it right. And everyone's like, what? It's like, yeah,
I know
dude,
all their names because I had a long time to think about it. I was locked in. I could hear everything going on.
So basically, long story short, Belky almost died like the first day of activities. And it was like, we're going to do like ATVs. And we're like, yo, if you can't do fucking breathing, there's no way you can handle an ATV in mountains. So we kind of shut it all down. And it turns out Belky was the only one doing it right. And that's why he got the full experience.
That's not why we shut it down. That's not why we shut it down. There was a pool party. But Yeah. I probably won't do it again. It was pretty scary. I'll be honest. It was pretty scary. I thought that was forever. And the shamans were of no help other than being hot.
Super hot, dude. Super
All
hot.
right, Pop.
And yeah,
Bring
it
this
turns out they
snowplow
just flew
onward.
in for like 10-day vacation. Hey, I got your video back. That's sick. I didn't have that for a while.
Dude, I've been
It's
here the whole
fine though,
time.
dude.
You're going to edit this.
I'm not complaining. No. Your video is always here. I just can't see you. I'm talking to a wall for most of this. I'm gaming the wall. Not very fun.
Easy with the inside joke.
No, dude, you just gotta stay along for the journey. Okay, so let's flash forward after Belky's locked. Cool story. We get to befriend everyone. That's part of the reason why we got in the Bermuda Triangle from yesterday and had the magic show was because Troy was one of the guys.
It ended up being another good strategy because people started to gossip about the kid that got locked in his own body. So it started to be Troy started introducing us to people like tell him what happened to you at Wim Hof. Tell him what happened to you at Wim Hof. Worked in our favor.
Right. And now it's kind of like the yacht that's sinking where everyone now can talk about it, including the A-list celebrity. It's like, oh, there's the kid that got locked. And now it's the easiest conversation starter. And you have this like almost going through a boot camp together sort of rapport. We literally went through a boot camp in like the ice bath, but plus this kid had a seizure. And we're like, oh, that's awesome. What an experience. Okay. So let's go to the last day, right? We talked about the whole kind of vacation party the day before, or the podcast before. Now, getting to the last day, we had our flights going out on a Tuesday, which is like an extra day. And so we already planned to stay an extra day. Actually, we're going to stay in Airbnbs, but like, God damn, I don't want to like relocate. So we basically already committed to staying an extra day. I'm like, yo, Belky, maybe hit up Jacqueline and just see if like they're hanging out. Maybe we grab lunch or dinner together and actually get to talk versus them running around with 500 people at this party. So you hit her up and she's basically like, oh yeah, stay the night. Make sure you can stay till Tuesday and we'll grab dinner tonight. Basically there's a lot of like back and forth. Has this crazy party. So she's kind of like running behind. We're just hanging out, blasting music, like psychopaths, just pacing for like an hour in our hotel room. And then finally she picks us up. I don't know how much, what do you want to give for details with all this, Belky?
No, that's good.
I guess,
Keep ripping. But let's talk about like
this resort.
Just the general like, hey, keep ripping, Pop. I won't stop you.
Yeah, you jump in with your 3-second lag, so that'll keep it paced.
Yeah.
But basically, they come, picks us. She picks us and her kid up, and we go to basically there's a nearby neighborhood. Like this is the resort, but there's also like kind of connected to it this beautiful, rich neighborhood. So we go on our little golf cart all through the neighborhood. She gives us this tour, and it's like doesn't feel real. And I think we said it yesterday, but like the first impression when we get to this 5-star hotel resort, it's like this is heaven. I haven't experienced something like this before. It just feels like everything's immaculate, tended to like down to the centimeter on how high the grass is or millimeter. Same thing here. We're going through the neighborhood, pointing out all the houses, who lives there. And it's just like insane. And we couldn't see the water, but you can like hear it and feel it. It's just everything overlooking the ocean in Mexico. And it's just unreal. So we go all through and then we pull into their house, and go and meet Saxy Poo. Or I think
Daddy.
Oh no, I met him the day before, but like hung out with Daddy, and he's just chilling.
You know what was so cool about this?
Friedman on Joe Rogan.
What was so cool about this is we had no expectations. We didn't know what the dinner was going to be. Jackie just said like, yeah, we'll get a bite at the hotel restaurant. She was late, so we're like, expectations are low. And then we're like, David's probably not going to come. It's probably just going to be us and Jacqueline. And then we show up, and he's like super game to get dinner. That was the first good sign.
Super game was more like Jacqueline set up this thing with this guy that's making a lot of videos for you, and he's like, I really like Lex, but yeah, sure, I'll go to dinner. But no, he did
she's
it with
the
like
connector.
A good attitude, given he probably didn't want to do it. Right. And keep in mind, like she's been so busy, so everything at the start was kind of stressful because like she was clearly stressed, and like, we didn't want to add stress to her life. We just wanted to like have dinner and maybe chat. But you could tell like she'd just been going crazy. So we get there, hanging out. Belky got a little panic attack, went to the bathroom, and then whatever. We go with Sax in his car to. It's funny because like I never believe you when you say you have panic attacks, just because I have zero empathy and like can't understand why that would happen. Like I get them too. I just don't like excuse myself. So it's always funny to me when you say it. I treat it as a joke.
Yeah,
but it's
I'm also like
pretty
acutely
serious.
aware. It's not that serious. It's like for some people, they'll get a panic attack or get really anxious and not know why. And I know like exactly what's happening. It doesn't help, but I know exactly what's happening. My hands started getting tingly. I was like, am I going to lock up? Am I going to lock up in their living room?
Dude, if you locked up. Oh, dude, that'd be tough if you just got that for life from a little Wim Hof with two hotties. So we get in the car, try to go to this one restaurant, but it's closed because it's like 9:30, 10 by the time we actually get there. Probably 9:30. I don't know. But we go to this other restaurant at the resort where we're staying. And we like finally get there. We're all just hanging out. And now we got like a bunch of time, who knows how much time, just to hang out and eat. And the first thing is they start coming over with like little carts of food, like a shitload of food, because I don't know if Jacqueline or Sax had texted Tracy, who's there, to like main person, like, hey, we're coming by, can you make sure the kitchen before it closes like gets some food? And it's just like a buffet of food, and it just keeps coming and coming and coming, clearly stressing Sax out. He's like, hey, Belky's not even eating. Dylan just wants like a couple sushi rolls. Like, what are we doing here?
It was 10 p.m.
So he starts feeding everyone else.
It was there were four of us. It was 3 pizzas, 2 salads, 4 rolls of sushi, a bowl of pasta, and bread. Sax is like, no.
Thanks for making it concrete.
Send
Right.
it to the other table.
He would say no. And he'd send it. He's like, do you guys want this? And we're like, not really. And then he'd send it away. And then like a minute later, the waiter would come with like another 2 pizzas. And he's like, what the fuck? You guys want this? And we're like, no. He's like, send it away. And so it's just like in and out each time. And it was really goofy. But no, right out of the gate, I don't know. I like the fact that I think we're pretty good at kind of like adding some humor to situations and like trying to be jokey, or like, I don't know. Right out of the gate, we asked like, oh, how'd you two meet? Which is pretty standard, but it's just like fun to hear. Oh, what's the story between Jacqueline and David? Like, how did you guys meet? And it's like, oh, at this club in LA. And it's like, Sax didn't really have the best game. So he sent his main guy that we talked about yesterday, who's a producer, I guess, to go like spit some game for him and talk him up. And it was just really goofy. So we start pretty much with some chuckles right into the night. And yeah, Belky, I don't know, where do we take this? Because I have what stood out to you as like a couple moments
on the front end. What stood out was I was like, oh, this is amazing, because kind of like when we met Hassan Minhaj for the first time, it was just an open-ender. There was it was late at night. There was nowhere any of us, no agenda. Like this could be 30 minutes, this could be 4 hours, and nothing's off limits. It was just like 4 friends eating dinner. That to me was like the overarching amazingness.
Right. It's one of those, like, I remember there's this girl in New York I went on a date with, and she was really annoying because like she had a very regimented schedule. So you knew like you had an hour block for this date. And it's like, that just sucks. Versus here, it's like, it's the end of the night. The only limiting factor we really had was like, hey, these people working at the restaurant, they want to go home because it's midnight. It's like, oh, okay. That's basically what we're working with.
Which is actually
and granted,
nice,
they were pretty
because
tired, but they had some espresso martinis, or I forget what they had. But
that kept them out at like midnight or so made it so that, okay, we all know we have to wrap and like put a bow on this dinner. It can't just like go on and on and on. So it was actually kind of a nice clue.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the perfect thing. If you can get some like 9:30, 10 p.m. dinners, and then make sure the
not
kitchen
for
closes,
me.
or that
I got no appetite at that hour.
Oh yeah, you had no appetite. I didn't even understand that. I was pigging out. I could have ate all the food if there weren't people there, but I could have eaten. That's proper subjunctive, I think. Okay, so what do we talk about? Well, one, they don't really know what we do. So we just like get in the classic like background, like, yo, how'd you guys meet? What do you guys do? Like, why do you like sax? Let's talk about like, I don't know, just what's interesting to them. I think we had asked Sax, and I think we talked about this the last podcast a little bit, but we asked Sax, like, told him the story about our friend Chris, who we asked, like, hey, in the pursuit of success, you kind of have to leave people behind that you once really liked, but are just not the same level of ambition. Like, what is your take on that? Is that true? Because he cried. Are you going to cry? Sax was like, no, I'm not going to cry. Look at this party. A lot of the people here, no, they're not like PayPal Mafia successful people. They're, say, doctors or lawyers that are still reasonably successful. I'm still friends with them. Like, I don't know how close he is to them, but clearly they're like a decent part of his life. He's like, that shit's bullshit. I don't know like what school he went to, but Sax went to Stanford. He's like, all my friends from Stanford and U Chicago Law School are here. So I wouldn't cry about that. So then,
and that to me just that spoke to my larger point about like advice is just it's literally different for everyone. We've got one person crying about that idea and the other like, no, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. And then it's up to you and you alone to take whatever and apply it to your own life. Right? So I wouldn't go
right.
from that first guy and be like, oh, I need to go make amends with every single elementary school friend I've ever had. And I wouldn't take from Sax, oh, like, just keep going for the moonshot. It'll all work itself out. This, you know, the answer is somewhere in the middle.
Right. I think, like, I don't know, where we're at, I see like my high school friends, I'm largely not friends with them anymore. Like I'll hang out once in a while, but like, it's just, there's too big of a gap. Like the only thing we can talk about is like girls. And I mean, that's fun for a bit, but like, I don't know, there are more important things. So that's where college friends were like, oh, we're both intellectually curious. We like sports. We have like similar senses of humor and like we joke about the same shit. Those are the people you don't want to leave behind. So that's where maybe like emotion could come from, I guess. But it sounds like all our friends are successful anyway. So it's not like we're going to leave them completely behind. They can go on the same trips as us for pretty much no matter what the wealth is. It's more so a matter of time. Like right now, we're trying to schedule like one weekend together. And Belky and I, we're like pretty much the whole summer is wide open. We're like, we'll go to wherever you want. It could even be Europe. Like just tell us and we'll be there. And those three can't have a single weekend where they have the same date. It's like,
well, and that's part of the beauty of that's part of the beauty of getting to go to this party. And that was in yesterday's episode. It's like we've seen the end game for like entrepreneurship, for careers, for like all these things. We've seen the end game. We know, or at least for us, flying wherever, whenever, at any time to hang out with your best friends, family, relatives is like. That's where it's at. And not everyone our age has figured that out. PJ would be nice.
Right. That's where having the principles of like what's really important, and that's why I've been thinking about this so much lately, is like, what is this all for? Like, where is the real happiness? And one of our friends, I did this big text right before the podcast. He's like, I sent him a Nassim Taleb thing, and he's like, yeah, Taleb, really what makes him happy is like the ancient Greek, like the Mediterranean lifestyle of like sun, food, and hard problems. That's going to largely, I add like friends in there, but like those things, and you're basically going to live an awesome life no matter what it is. So if you can guarantee those, keep ripping. And then I started questioning. I'm like, well, we don't really see our friends that much. Like, how can we do more of that? Like, does that mean we take them onto the business? Because I'll see someone like Mr. Beast, and Mr. Beast is dope because he just hired all his friends and now he shoots videos with his friends all the time and they're all just succeeding together. It's like, oh, that's a pretty sick life. Like, could we do that with maybe Ais or someone else in the friend group? So I go through all that and I'm like, why are we going to New York? It's not very sunny there. It's like, I don't know, people, just like constant internal battling, but in a good way. I think that's productive.
I think most people don't do that. We also don't do any amount of that, whether it's productive or not. It's like, most people don't question anything.
I think one of the problems that I noticed, like as I moved more out of Clipped and Henry took over like the day-to-day, is now all I really do is think about this podcast and just like learn things constantly, which is really fun, and like think about things. But what happens is you'll kind of spin in circles. Like you'll start to question everything, and then like there aren't clear answers. So you're not making particularly linear progress. Like it's an up and down, but overall the trend is like you're getting closer to the truth. Same thing with our company. We're like pivoting quite a bit. Now we're slightly pivoting less, but who knows, there might be a big pivot with what I learned from Sachs. But like you're getting towards what feels like the truth to you. And that's why every day is just like a weird philosophical, intellectual challenge for me. It's like, what's really the point of all this? What are we doing? But I think we're getting closer, just by the way our lives are.
Isn't there something about Dunning-Kruger where you also know too much? And I think Tim Urban was talking about this in his All In Summit talk, is like, there is also harm in knowing too much. Because you'll apply this mental model, and then you'll cycle around the circle and apply the inverse mental model, and then at times you can actually know too much.
Right. So that's where it's like, get down to the core, the principles. It's like, what are the principles? Call it sun, food, friends, and problems. Like just have those and like not be stressed about anything else, which is like a certain level of income, and you'll live an awesome life. And this was with Sachs too. He's like, sure, I look around and there are all these billionaires, like we're all successful, but I no longer compare myself to them. Like that's just not the game I'm playing. Because here, I'm in the millions still, probably. I'm not in the billions, and there are a lot of people a lot more successful. I could have, say, 20% more. I think all of us would love to have more, but it's like, I don't know. It's pretty good as is. This is probably enough.
And we keep coming back to this number of like 10 million.
This is
for what,
dude? The lag is the most painful. Like,
no, it's good. You get time to think.
It's really tough with the lag.
You get time to think.
That was just a straight up 6-second pause for me, or felt like 6 at least, probably 3.
Oh no, but, real time over here. Real time over here. What other takeaways you got from dinner?
Okay. So that was cool. Sachs is like, okay, you just got to not compare yourselves to them, because like if there's anyone that should be comparing themselves, it should be Sachs, because he's like, that's just the game they're playing. Is like, what's your valuation? They're constantly in the numbers of things, and like that's how you compare yourselves. I was even watching this Michael Saylor video. He was talking about Apple and why they're going to be so successful, and he's like, yeah, I was at this dinner with one of the top 10 richest people in the world, and hey, they're just better at investing. Like I'm pretty good, but they have like a different strategy, and like I go for the hot takes too, so I'm like more popular there. It's just funny. He kind of like this constant comparison that's just fucking difficult. But he was probably talking about Warren Buffett, but whole different rant there actually about what's interesting with how Apple relates to Clip. But I'll leave that for later. So basically, cool. Sachs got out of that game. I forget the point, but he gets out. Other people you see in that world don't get out, and then it's like you're always chasing something. So when is enough? Figuring out when that line is. And then it comes back to like, okay, Dylan and Henry, you're here. Jacqueline is like convinced that we're going to be successful, which is really cool. It's kind of going back to that Sean Puri original conversation we had with him. It's like, hey, you're on the right track. That's what he said originally. Like, no matter what anyone says about entrepreneurship and like pursuing your own things, like, no, I've been in your exact shoes. This is the path to success. Don't listen to them at all. Same thing here. We're just a little bit farther down this path. Jacqueline's like, hey, I've seen success. Like all my friends are successful. You're on that exact same path. It's like, what are you working towards? Because you're going to be successful in whatever you do. And that's where we both kind of talk about our recent idea where it's like, okay, agency is cool. It's profitable, but hey, we want to build something that's more scalable, like software. Like we see how you can make clips. A lot of it could be done much more easily with just like a trim tool and certain different simple tools that we could put on the web. It's like, okay, sure, you're speaking to the software guy, and like our natural gut instinct was like, oh, software guy is going to like this. Like Sachs, this is SaaS. Like you like SaaS versus like the agency. That's a lot of people. People are bad. You want to do like robots. Robots are good. And his first take was, no, I wouldn't do that. I'm like, oh, what? That the king of SaaS is against this? Well, why could that be? Hey, are you gonna run out of Wi-Fi at 40 minutes?
No, Pop. No, I'm on a different hotspot today.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, take a sip.
Sachs is like, I gotta get into it. Sachs is like, I wouldn't do that because it sounds like you're building a tool, and that's not the right path. Like, okay, Sachs, what is the right path? Like, well, did you ever hear about Qualtrics versus SurveyMonkey? I'm like, no, Sachs, teach us. It's like, SurveyMonkey, this is that, probably you've heard of SurveyMonkey, which we had, and it's like, okay, you can do like a Google form or SurveyMonkey, and it's just like a simple form builder when you want to ask anyone a question, whether it's like a group project in school or in your company or customers, whatever it is. Here's the tool, you can build it, and now you can give it to anyone. And it's this venture-backed Silicon Valley company that's just basically crushing it. Like, I don't know, at the time they were valued at several billions. They had like a 3-year head start on everyone. So by normal definitions, they should be the monopoly, just crush everyone in the survey world. And then in comes this strange little company called Qualtrics. It's like, well, what the fuck is Qualtrics? It's like, well, unlike SurveyMonkey, which is pretty much saying everywhere, hey, we do surveys. It's in our name. Survey. You want surveys. It's like, Qualtrics is like, no, people don't want surveys. That's just like, people don't want a nail. They want a hole. It's like, instead of giving people that nail, that survey, let's give them the hole. Let's give them answers to problems they have. It's like, okay, so instead of
because they don't know how to ask
like
the right questions,
lower level managers.
If I make a SurveyMonkey for us, I
Right.
don't know how to ask the right questions is the problem.
Right. It's like, how the fuck do I use this tool? Now you gotta like figure out how you're gonna get the most use out of it. And it's like, hey, you're the company. Why can't you just like use it or do it for me? So basically, Qualtrics is like, okay, we don't want to go the route of bottom up SaaS is what it's called. It's like you start at the bottom of a company with managers, and it's like, here's the tool to use, and then hopefully they sell it, and like people in the company, they all see SurveyMonkey on all the surveys they take as this nice viral loop, and it grows within the company. Now you've sold everyone. They didn't want to do that. Like, let's try it where instead of going at the bottom, we go at the top. So let's dump all our resources, build like a very similar tool where like the first, there's like 3 different layers, but basically SurveyMonkey only focus on that first layer, which is like build the tool, and then they'll integrate with like Google or Slack or Oracle, whatever it is, to make that data pretty. And it's like, no, fuck that. We're going to do everything. It's like, we'll go to the CEO and be like, CEO, let's call it like, say Apple yesterday just came out with the M2, the new MacBook Air. It's like, Tim Cook, you just dropped this M2. You want to know how are potential customers reacting to the price point, the specs, how happy are they with like the innovation, like all these different questions. We know you have them because we work with similar tech companies doing exactly what we're about to do. You might have some extra questions, but we're going to get you the answers to all those questions. And then they have their team. Once they're sold, they go through and they create the actual forms. They make sure they send them out. They do the visualizations and then teach them to Tim Cook. So now, instead of having Tim, and it's like, hey, Tim, here's your SurveyMonkey. You want to drag this form up and make that a multi-choice question? It's like, Tim's not going to do that. Just give Tim the answer. So that's exactly what they did. And now they're in 85% of the Fortune 100 companies. So pretty much every big-ass company you know uses Qualtrics just by focusing on, instead of the tool, focus on the outcome.
And so Sachs's point was, yeah, you could build a $99 a month SaaS tool, or you could charge 10 grand a month and sell people the solutions to their problems. I would probably do the latter.
Right.
And he's the king of SaaS.
Right. But it makes so much sense. It's like, how many people are going to use this tool? And why I liked it, why it stuck with me so much is like, that was my initial fear. It's like we're building a tool, but like who's going to say they're going to use it or use it right? Like you
Use
can
it
build a
right.
survey, but like you're probably asking the wrong questions, or like, I don't know, just asking all these leading questions, whatever. You're just not doing it right. So we specialize in this. We have a whole team around asking the right questions, designing the perfect survey that's going to give you the answers you need. We'll just handle it all. Just pay us $1 million a year, whatever that contract
And because
is.
it's all
now,
to us and our whole team, it's intuition and specific knowledge. You can't just like give someone a clipping tool and they're going to intuit how to make an amazing clip. But our team can.
Right. And it's something we even still struggle with because we're like constantly learning about what works and what doesn't. And that's why I love the viral world. Right. So it's like, we could build the tool, but like keep it internal. If it helps you internally, keep using it and just like reach a bigger scale. But selling Saks $99 clipping tool, he's like, I'm not going to use that. Just make me a celebrity online. That's the answer I want. So I'm like, it got me rattled where it's like, should we stay?
Well, that's where
agency
again, like,
and just do that better because he's also like,
But
well,
he's like,
we said
the way you guys are
last pod, but
operating
he's
now
basically
is
like,
there it is, snowplow. Hey, snowplow. That's the sign.
push. All right, yeah. I'll walk right through that. Yeah, basically like the issue, because we're like a marketplace, which is like this in between of we're not an agency, we're not a software company, we're kind of in this ether of like, what is it? It's working really nice, but he's also like, okay, awesome. You have, call it 40 customers. If the average customer stays for 10 months, just divide 40 by 10. You're like, oh, you're going to churn on average 4 a month. So unless you're getting in 4 new customers, you're declining, you're decaying, you're losing your revenue. I'm like, oh, that's actually a lot of people to be adding. And we're just not seeing that because we signed a lot of people on just a couple months ago. So it's like, oh, we might get like a storm of people canceling in a little bit because we don't have proper clients.
Here's what I
call those people.
And here's why this didn't tip me off so hard, and what I think he got slightly wrong. And this is like, he's not in the day-to-day. He said, I think it's a bad idea for you guys to match clients with video editors and step out of the way and leave the room. What I realized is, he's like, you should have an account manager to make sure these clients are successful. What I realized is I'm in every single channel fighting those fires, offering hints, strategy, whatever, any urgencies. So we are somewhere in that in between. Now, my role should probably be way more proactive and strategical and helpful with success. And I think that's where we need to go. That's the like, there's something in the middle.
It's the, oh, hey, SurveyMonkey now has a support team for whenever you have difficulty. It's like, no. I don't want the support team. Give me the consultant that tells me how to use this.
Post for me.
And that's what
post for me.
I took from this.
Write a creative brief for me.
Right.
Get in. Give me a content schedule. Where is my editor? Like, make sure they're showing up and getting clips done. Yeah.
So that's where it's like, okay, it does feel like intuitively the right way to go because we see a lot of our current customers aren't, or clients, whatever you want to call them, they aren't using the product as well as they could. And we know it because we see it with every single client that wants to go viral. We're like, oh, this is the formula, or some version of this is what you should be doing. You're not doing that. So now are we just going to give them like free customer support and still only make like $2,000 a month from each one? Or do we just charge for a whole new product and they come to expect that, but it's something that we know we can deliver? And I think that's one of our problems is like, we have difficulty promising virality just because we haven't done it necessarily ourselves. And traditionally in the past, we over animated. So we didn't get virality. We did like anti-virality. So we just spend way too much time on clips and it look unnatural. But I think as we're going with smart nonsense, we're like, I'm pretty sure we know the formula because we've seen enough of it and how to scale it. So if we promise instead of clips, like, hey, we'll give you X amount of clips a month. We're like, no, hey, we're going to give you X amount of views. Because that's what you want. You want the celebrity and they're good views. We're going to give you that. That's still my pitch.
That's my post-pod FOD. I still think guaranteeing and promising views is the wrong game. I think it selects for the wrong people. But that producer type person should be pushing virality and views and success metrics. But onboarding people that want
what do you mean by
100,000 views, a post pod fod, it's a long story. It's a long story.
Well,
what else?
Yeah,
from dinner?
I guess we'll give an update on our post pod fod, but one quick thing, because it just got me going down. I'm like, oh, what would be cool? Because like you're known as the vlogger, and like you had watching your All In Summit recaps. It's like, oh, that's an awesome experience where you just get cool documentation, and plus, in theory, a lot of people are watching. It's like, what if we just took Gary V, what he did? It's like, oh, I'm the CEO of this large media company. Like, follow me around and just churn this into content, make me a celebrity, make it a machine in the background. It's like, that'd be such an interesting offering. It's like, hey, $1 million a year, we'll turn your cool CEO into Gary V or into a celebrity. Like, that's our pitch. And we just get one like college intern that wants to be around, I don't know, Tim Cook. Like, hey, you hang out with Tim Cook all the time. And now we have all these editors in the background that make him super cool and personable. Because right now I think like a lot of the hate on Zuckerberg is like he doesn't seem like a person, for example. So it's like, oh, if we saw the vlog version of Zuckerberg versus like the 3-minute clip, we'd respect him a lot more.
Right. And this is kind of, again, this will be a different episode, but what we'll talk about after, I'm like, our competency is in clips, vlogs, and podcasts. I think each of those things should have a producer. All of those things should be editable by the same editor within Clipped. And then I also think, like you're saying, there should be this like startup suite, and that's a full like marketing team, $100,000 a month, $1 million a year, and we come on for David Sachs at Craft Ventures or Zuckerberg and do his clips and his vlogs, and if he's got a long form thing, whatever.
Well, it was
build the system and give
him
him
the question we've been asking ourselves. It's like, okay, we got into the room. Like that was our goal a year from now, was like get into the room with the most important people. We're there. We're at dinner with them. It's like, okay, now that we're here where everyone would be dying to be in our position, where do our two worlds collide? Because right now it doesn't collide in a good way. It's like, hey, Craft's kind of using one of your editors, but they're not really using them well. Like there's just no matching going on. It's like, where is this overlap in the Venn diagram where it's like, we're stoked to do this and they get an insane amount of value. And now we're all talking the same playing field because we're not the like in debt 24, 25-year-olds. We're the 27-year-olds that are just as successful as they are. It's like, that's kind of cool. Not necessarily that we want that. Maybe we just want sunlight and good food. But
we're 27
there should
now?
be a world that's pretty easy for us to get to. Well, in like 2 years, we're on this new.
Yeah.
Oh, and
the way I see it is we're doing $1.5 million a year now. I'm like, figuring this thing out is what gets us to 5 million. And then from there it's or beyond. From there it's a whole different game. That's like bring in different people and run the business properly. Maybe.
Right. So okay. Not much
Thanks,
left.
Sax.
It's just we just hung out, shot the shit. What's big learnings from basically talking to Sax? To me, one, it's interesting because I see like, say my dad gives me advice, and it's kind of funny with my own family. I'm like, I don't really accept it because I see them too much, and I kind of like, I know their experience, and I just like don't trust them as a qualified source. Versus Sax tells me or tells us a one-liner. He's like, Qualtrics versus SurveyMonkey, outcome, not tool. It's like, okay, that's just ingrained in my brain now because I trust him, and that was his like most hard-hitting feedback that I needed in the moment, or we needed. So that's just like, it does pay to have people that have been there before to really give you that, but you got to take everything with a grain of salt. And nothing else. What else do you have?
Yeah, because to qualify it too, he's like, when you were talking about the software tool, which like to anyone listening, that could still work too. I'm sure that's a perfectly viable business option. He was saying like, you know, if you're going to build the SaaS tool, like you really need to have the UX figured out and the UI. And like we do, like in our heads. So he was
Oh,
right? Like in his head, we haven't thought about the SaaS thing at all. We don't know what it should do. We don't know who it's for. We don't know if there's a market there. I think all of those things are false. And so that's when I start taking what he says with a grain of salt. Because he just doesn't know.
but
He just doesn't know what we know.
we were still. Here's the thing, though.
I still think his advice
we
is
would've-
the direction we should go in. Absolutely.
I'm like his one-liner of build the outcome, not the tool.
Absolutely.
Just potentially change the next 20 years of our lives. It's like, oh, we just
yes.
avoided wasting time on software because we looked at like what it becomes and like, oh, that's not even going to be successful. I mean, Qualtrics is kind of $10 billion versus less than 2 for SurveyMonkey.
I guess my metaphor is like Chris, who's crying about losing friends, and then Sachs, who's like, fuck that, I've got the best friends ever, is the same as us having the decision, or any other founder, do you go do this thing based on this one-liner? In our case, yes. Or do you build the tool? You can also build the tool. Sachs just doesn't have the full context on that.
I think I got 2 points here. One, and then we'll wrap up, I guess. One is,
nothing but time.
Talk about the points and then forget what the points are. I got the second point. What was the first?
I'm in Cody, Wyoming with nothing but time. Kanye lives here.
What was cool is they're all okay. So one thing about Qualtrics, this wasn't it, but they're based in Utah. So everyone's shitting on like, oh, this Utah bootstrap company, how are they going to be successful? But it's just like, oh, they got the Mormon salesperson engine just ripping and selling, cold calling all these CEOs and selling them. I thought that was kind of cool. That wasn't any of the 2 points. I'll just mention the second. Hopefully the first will come to me. What was interesting in that okay. Point number 1. It's like,
yes,
2 points actually. Fuck, 3 points in total. Okay.
Write them down.
Do I write them down? Do I just go for it? I'm gonna go for it. Hold on.
Nothing but time in Cody, Wyoming.
So one is like, as a mentor, is there a way for us to take feedback with less of a grain of salt? As in, like, Sachs says something, how can we trust his opinion more? I think this gets into like the waiter that when you try and buy something expensive, they're like, oh no, you're not gonna like that. You should get this instead. That's cheaper. That builds the most trust because like, oh, his natural instinct should be to upsell me on this. It's like, one, Sachs shooting down SaaS was kind of interesting to me, but I'm like, if you say, hey, I thought like that before, and here's kind of why I changed my mind to this, then you're on their side. Like if Sachs is like, totally get why you're thinking that way, and the tool could be successful. Like here's how it could be successful and kind of work through the math. I don't think that would be the best for this reason versus just saying, no, don't do that, do this. It's like he kind of concedes a little bit, but then it more so strongmans his own argument by like strongmanning a little bit of the other side. So just thinking from like,
great point.
Like for example, if Chris crying, if everyone kind of gave you the grain of salt, now you're going to trust them a lot more. Like, hey, this is just my experience. I know there are other people that probably have friends in college, but like for me, I had to leave a lot of people behind. Now you're like, oh, I trust that person a lot more than the person that just gave me their one-sided. Like acknowledge that you're just one person, and psychologically you're more likely to trust them. And then, okay, second point related to that is like Sachs gave us all this advice. Same with Jacqueline, like she's awesome. As someone that like gave us all this advice, if you were in his shoes, what would you kind of want in return? Oh, I forgot about this other thing that we're going to do.
Whoa, Pop.
What would you want in return? Sorry, hey, last minute, fourth quarter, going into overtime.
Well, I think the giving of advice. Oh, is that a rhetorical? Here's my take. I think the giving of the advice is what you get in return. I think it's journey is the destination, journey is the shit. And just being able to offer us something, offer us that tip or advice is in fact what makes it so fulfilling.
Yeah, but I think there's a different level to it where it's like he can offer that, but then kind of what you do with Sean Purry is like, oh, I made a vlog about this, or I made a podcast about this, and send it to him, or if he just discovers it, or it's like write that letter, like my mom said Henry, write the handwritten note with like your big takeaways or whatever, just how it's changed your life. I think that's the next level of like, how do you really be like top 1% in everything you do? In taking advice from a mentor, the way to be top 1% is just that follow up, that like special, what you said sunk in. I might not have accepted all of it, but here's how I'm going to try and apply it to my life. That's just like the fucking golden goose of being 1% in every realm. Last thing. This is just kind of funny where Colin, we kind of joked about it. That's like his kind of a flop product. Is supposed to be like the next wave of podcasting and whatever it might be. We did some work with them, but we're like, hey, you got to get viral. Like you have all this content, all these amazing people that you're getting on the platform, but nothing's going to go viral because you don't have clips. And Sax was always like, well, what the fuck's his name? The
Axel.
Starts with an A. Axel, he's working on it. He's going to make clips doable. I'm like, no, audio clips suck. Like we need video clips. He's like, I don't know. Now, a year later, when it's flopping, he's like, you know the issue? We don't have video. And video is what people share, especially on TikTok. And like, Sax, we told you this like a year ago.
You can lead a horse to water. You can't make the damn horse drink.
The damn horse. Hey, that's all I got, Belky.
Hey, let's get the fuck out of here. That was sick, Pop. Even with the lag, you push through, teeing it up for you in this camera, or this camera. Pop, what do you have to tell the people?
Gardaloo,
Gardaloo, dude.